Just kind of some housekeeping. If you have questions, just put them in the chat. I know Rachel's been very generous with her time here tonight, so hopefully we'll have some time at the end to get to that. But Rachel, thanks for joining us today. I'm sorry you had to rush home to do this, but we appreciate it.
No problem.
In true SABR fashion, what we like to do is a little bit of this is your life, did a little research, and just kind of wanted to go through some stuff, ask some questions along the way. If at any point you want to stop and tell a story or say something else, this is your session, so just let us know. And here we go.
Sounds good.
Share the screen. And hopefully all this works okay.
Oh.
Okay, you can see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we start off with the "This is your life" part of the presentation. I found this picture. Looks like this must have been you. How old are you? 4 or 5 at this point?
I gotta be about that. Yep.
Okay.
And I stayed a lefty as well. So that was a natural decision. No one turned me around.
So I know that you're kind of based in Crown Point, Indiana now.
Yep.
Born and raised in Southern California, though?
Yep.
Whereabouts?
In a city called Azusa, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. I mean, everything's a suburb of Los Angeles. It's huge, but it would be in the San Gabriel Valley. So in Southern California, we describe everything in terms of where the freeways are. So it's where the 57 and the 210 and the 10 all meet. That's where I'm at.
Do you have a particular team you rooted for as a kid then? I
was a Dodger fan.
Dodger fan?
Big Dodger fan, yeah.
Do you have favorite players? And please don't say Steve Garvey.
No, I'm not that. Well, I didn't see Steve Garvey play live. I'm too young for that. But my favorite player growing up was I love Sean Green as a Dodger. And I just like, I was always a Jim Thome fan. So, and I know he had a cup of coffee with the Dodgers for like a minute, but like, I loved him because he was a right-handed thrower, left-handed hitter, and just like myself, and hit bombs. So I like those two players, and I like Griffey. Who didn't, though?
Nice. It's reminiscent of where you're wearing your hat right now, then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Griffey
exactly.
Style.
Got to do it.
So you played Little League Baseball.
Yep.
And kind of around here, I think a lot of girls at some point kind of get encouraged to switch over to softball. Is that something that happened to you along the way?
Yes. So I played baseball and basketball growing up, and basketball was my better sport. I loved baseball. Baseball was kind of like my first love, but I played basketball and I got sick. I didn't love baseball as much as I loved basketball in terms of like playing it. So everyone kept trying to ask me when I was going to switch to softball. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop playing baseball altogether and just go play basketball. And then my basketball coach asked me to play on his softball team, and the rest is history. So that's how that went.
So it looks like you had a pretty distinguished career then, went out, played at Marshall. I know all of us probably like to look at pictures of ourselves when we were in college.
Oh my gosh.
So just some career highlights here. It looks like 4-time All-American for Marshall, freshman conference player of the year, first team all conference. Sophomore, you won the Triple Crown for the conference. 386, 18 homers and 56 ribbies, player of the year. Junior, looks like you slacked a little bit. There was really no accolades except for All-American and all conference, huh? And then senior, all those accolades plus conference player of the year. And then you were just inducted in the Marshall Athletic Hall of Fame in 2019.
Yep.
And then I was actually doing a little searching and I found a highlight film on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen this?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so I thought
we can watch it again. That's fine. I'll relive my glory days.
Yeah, I get a kick out of it.
I can provide commentary too. We were playing at University of Georgia in the tournament, and sorry about my dog. And we beat DePaul and Georgia. Well, we beat DePaul and Georgia. Both of them were ranked that weekend. That was pretty cool. It's me running the bases. I did steal a few bags, even though I was about 40 pounds heavier then than I am now. That one was a bomb. I played pro softball with her later. This was fun. This was against Ohio State. I hit 3 home runs in a doubleheader, 1 to left, 1 to center, and 1 to right. That was kind of cool. This next one, she hung a changeup. And the catcher right there is the current hitting coach for University of Oregon. Jackie, stop.
Knew that one was gone.
Yeah, that one was I think she threw a 3-2 changeup and I sat on it. I think I remember. That's a Southern Miss. I remember everything, so I can tell you everything. That's it. Oh no, it's me. Here's me defensively. Now that's it. There you go.
So that was pretty cool. Looks like you had some pretty serious opposite field power.
I mean, as a
those
lefty, you
like
kind of have to. Nobody really comes inside to you very much. It's very hard, and even at the pro baseball level, it's very hard to find a right-handed pitcher that is willing to establish an inside corner against a left-handed hitter.
Yeah. So looks like 2008, drafted 7th overall by the Chicago Bandits, our Chicago Bandits.
That's right.
Rookie of the year that year, champions in 08 and 11. 2010 NPF Offensive Player of the Year. Tied for the home run title 2010 and second in batting average. Hit a robust 389 with Carolina in 2012. And then finished your career top 10 all time in second base, doubles, homers, RBIs, and base on balls. So pretty distinguished professional career. But here's something that came next. So it looks like you are around the same time you're coaching at Holy Names as the assistant, coaching at Valpo, and then eventually led to the position you have now with the Cubs as the minor league hitting coach and lead lab tech. In this picture here, that's you and Rachel Folden, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so it's a couple of pioneers here in terms of women in professional baseball.
I do have a pretty interesting story about that picture if you want to go back real quick.
Oh, I'll go back, yeah, for sure.
We were both working. This picture is taken at Northwestern University in Chicago. And so Elite Baseball, which is the company owned by Justin Stone, who's the director of hitting for the Cubs, him and I used to partner on, or we still do, I guess, in the off season for consulting deals with like college baseball, college softball teams, anybody who needs to understand how to use tech and how to integrate it. So one of our clients was Northwestern softball. Well, at the same time, Northwestern softball had hired Driveline to come out, which is where Balkovich used to work. And she was doing her own project on like gaze tracking. So like figuring out where hitters are looking, like when they are picking up ball out of pitcher hand. So we were both there at the same time, and it was kind of cool because we were doing this like sim game, and we had like force plates out. The hitters had glasses on, like it was like this teched out sim game. And both of us had been hired for our positions, but we did not know that the other one had been hired yet. So the Yankees had hired her, but they kept it a secret. The Cubs had hired me, and they kept it a secret. And so we both had our jobs, and we both were like thinking we were going to be the only coaches in baseball. And so we ended up being at the same place at the same time. And the Northwestern coaches, Kate and Carol Drohan, actually broke the news to both of us. And I just like, I gave her a big hug, and I was like instantly like relief, like, oh my God, I don't have to do this by myself. And she has so much experience in baseball. So that was just like super helpful. So that's how we met, which I think is a pretty cool story. So.
Is it your coaching at Valpo that kind of brought you to Northwest Indiana then?
Yes. So I when I got drafted by the Bandits, the owner of the Bandits knew the softball coach at Valpo. They needed an assistant, so I went and interviewed for it, got the position, and then I ended up getting married. I'm divorced now, but I ended up getting married, so I stayed in the area, and that's just kind of how it worked.
And so that's a nice transition from Southern California weather to
Yeah,
Northwest
beautiful,
Indiana.
beautiful. That's what I used to tell everybody. I moved there for the weather.
So this is a question that I have. You know, the weird thing is with baseball box scores, I could find out play-by-play information from a game that happened 100 years ago. And
Love
for
it.
the NPF, I really can't find much in the way of box scores from 10 years ago. So
That is correct.
So my understanding is that Jenny Finch pitched a couple of perfect games with the Bandits during the years you were there. Were you behind the plate for either of these?
Yes, 7/16/09. I called and caught that one. 7/9/10. Ashley Holcomb, who was Team USA's catcher at the time, put the fingers. I was the DH in that game.
Okay. So you're at least able to take credit for the 7/16/09 calling
Yes.
that game, and you take half credit, 75%, or did
None.
None?
If you were ever lucky enough to watch her play or play with her, you'd understand that that's the most competitive human on the planet. And you would never know it if you met her. She's the nicest, most humble, like you've seen it. I don't know if anyone watched her on Dancing with the Stars, like very modest, very like buttoned up, but like the ultimate competitor. I take zero credit for that. I also you should give some of the credit to this player named Emily Friedman. In the last inning, she swung at a 3-0 pitch with a perfect game on the line and grounded out to third base.
Wow.
What are we doing?
Did you ever have to hit against Jenny Finch?
One time in practice, she threw a live at bat to me in practice, and she struck me out, and I walked away from that going, God, I'm so happy she's on my team.
It must be kind of, I mean, at the point that you were playing for the Bandits, were they at that field in Rosemont, or were you playing somewhere else that you were?
No, we started off my first 2 seasons, we played at Judson.
Oh, university, okay.
Yep, and then we moved to the field in Rosemont.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was at the time, but I'm pretty sure the street that ballpark's on in Rosemont's named after her now. So.
Jenny Finch Way, yes it is. Yep.
So at this point, you are the founder and owner of Folden Fastpitch and Crown Point. I understand that you also have like a online consulting or online instruction.
Yes, online instruction.
Well.
Yep.
So in terms of what you do at your own facility, is it, like you said earlier, I know that you're probably teaching, you know, kids and teenagers and so forth, but part of the way that you're instructing is with all of the technology, right? At this point, and you mentioned force plates and things like that. I mean, what kind of stuff are you using for your students at this point at your facility?
So with being a partner of Elite Baseball and also working here with the Cubs, I have a ton of experience with the tech to the point where I don't really have to use it on a daily basis anymore, in terms of like, I kind of know what to look for now. I kind of know what to expect when you see someone swing a bat and you do like a movement screen on them and stuff like that. So a lot of it is mostly the data or the technology, I should say, becomes more so like when I can't figure something out, then we introduce the data. But a lot of it is just, you know, figuring out how kids move, and a lot of kids just aren't strong enough to move well yet. And, you know, we can mechanize them to death, or we can just let them be athletic and teach them how to control that athleticism. And I think, you know, that's where it is mostly when I train kids. Now, when I train, let's say a college kid comes home and she wants, you know, some instruction, then we can take her, I can just drive her up to Stoney's place in Chicago, and he's got all of his equipment up there. And it's basically the same stuff we have in the hitting lab in Chicago, minus 1 or 2 things. So I can test them and figure out, like, again, like we have force plates up there, so we can figure out how they're interacting with the ground. making sure they're efficient that way. We have some wearable technology where you can see if their turn sequence is, correct, I guess, or why, like, it just tells us a lot. Like, it can tell us like how bent over the plate you are, how turned inward towards the catcher you are, how much you rotate at contact. Are you losing posture? Are you keeping your posture? There's a bunch of stuff. And then when we do that, I just basically go in and look for the lowest hanging fruit first. What's the outlier data? And is that keeping them from doing what I need them to do? And then we just work up from there.
Is this kind of the way that you came up with? I mean, I know technology is different then, but was there some emerging technology that was part of your own training?
I would say I was pretty early on the bat sensor train. The blast sensor train. I've used that at Folden Fastpitch for years, and that's kind of like that's the piece of tech I feel the most comfortable with, to be honest. I think that you can do a lot with that. You can do a lot with $100 bat sensor on the bottom of your bat, and so we just, you can, if you know what you're looking for, it's very easy to have kids come in, swing with it, and just kind of work backwards from there. But I would say I was pretty early on that. Everything else, I would say Elite Baseball, which is Stoney's company, has been at the forefront of this entire technology boom in baseball. And the proximity to where I was, because it was only an hour away and I could drive up there and play on all the stuff and test stuff out and see what I could, figure out, was just huge in my development. So I got lucky in terms of how close it was to, where I lived. And I had a personal relationship with Stoney, and I'm really, really good friends with Travis Kerber, who works for that company too. And so that's kind of how all of that played in.
You think that your familiarity with this tech-driven instruction was probably pretty important with you getting the job with the Cubs then, right?
Yes. Because when Stoney got hired, so he was just a consultant for a while for the Cubs. They hired his company to basically test out technology, tell the Cubs how they can implement it to be used in their player development system. And so then they brought him on as the director of hitting to implement all of that. And so it came time to hire coaches that knew how to coach and knew how to use all of the data and technology that we were going to use as an organization. And so I actually was very well qualified for the position because I knew how to do everything. And I was coaching all of the stuff that we had been, collating and collecting on the data end. So, and just interjecting that into how I coach kids. So it was very much like a very natural way of getting a position.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's probably a question you get all the time, but is there fundamental difference between hitting a baseball and hitting a fast pitch softball?
No, in terms of how the swing works, because the swing is just basically solving a problem, right? So whatever the pitch demands, that's what our swing has to solve, right? And I think when people ask me that question, it's basically like, is there one swing for baseball and one swing for softball? And no, there's not. There's a million swings for baseball and there's a million swings for softball, because there's a million different pitches that we're going to see. But the way that the ball behaves, I tell people this all the time, in the last 15 feet before it reaches home plate is very, very similar in baseball and softball, even though it starts from a different angle, right? So I do think there are more problems presented in baseball. And my 25-year-old, I'm 35 now, my 25-year-old self wants to punch me in the face for admitting that, because I've always argued that softball is harder. But I do think that baseball presents more problems because there's different arm angles and there's multiple speeds in baseball, whereas in softball, most pitchers have 2 speeds. So some pitchers you'll see will have 3 speeds, but basically, like in softball, your fastball, your curveball, and your drop ball are all the same speed, and they all come out of the same slot, right? Whereas in baseball, your fastball, your slider, and your curveball are 3 different speeds. Your changeup's probably a 4th speed somewhere, and they all come from different arm angles. So there's different problems that you have to solve. But the way the ball behaves and the way that the swing should look is very, very similar.
And I guess I don't know if the word impressed or maybe just kind of probably impressed, but I read a book, The MVP Machine by Travis Sawchik and Ben Lindbergh. And one of the things that I found most interesting was, I guess, the evolution of pitching machines and how they're used for training major league ball players. That it's not just that thing you see at the batting cage with the little arm that goes boom, boom, right?
Yeah.
That you're actually able to program whatever machine you have to just throw pitches outside corner or whatever it might be. Is that part of something that you're using either at Folden or with the Cubs?
Yeah, we use it we use those types of machines in the Cubs organization, and we also use them at Elite Baseball too. So pitching machines are getting pretty advanced now, where you can pre-program them to throw certain pitches. You can basically mimic a pitcher's arsenal now, which is pretty awesome. So if the Cubs are facing the Brewers and Brandon Woodruff's pitching, we can basically say, okay, what's the average spin rate on Brandon Woodruff's fastball? What's the tilt on it? What's the slider look like? What's the spin rate? And we can just basically build those pitches in, and then we can have machines throw them so that you can basically hit off of Brandon Woodruff before you step in the box, which is pretty cool. So we do have technology that allows us to do that for sure.
So at this point, and I hope I got the title right. Is it minor league hitting coach and lead lab tech? Is that it?
Yeah, the lead lab tech is just, I always joke that I know how to turn everything on. So that's just, I know how to turn everything on and make sure the cords are connected. So the hitting lab down here in Arizona is our most advanced hitting lab that we have in the org. So there's someone that needs to be down here all the time that knows how to use it at all times. And we do use, especially during like extended spring training, we do use that time to kind of like try things and test things. So, which is awesome. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. I'm a rookie ball hitting coach. Like I am assigned to a team. So I am in the dugout. I write game reports. I write scouting reports for all my guys. I am a hitting coach for the ACL Cubs, which is the rookie ball Cubs. And so that's my primary job, but my secondary job is to make sure that I can run the hitting lab down here.
And hitting lab, I mean, when I hear the word lab, I'm thinking of coats and beakers and Bunsen burners. I mean, it's just basically computers, cameras, Rapsodo or whatever else.
Yep.
All that.
Yeah, we've got, we have enough technology to measure the body, the ground force, the bat, and how the ball is behaving.
And are you taking, at least from the hitting standpoint, taking somebody's swing, analyzing it, and telling them how to be better? Or are you taking the information and showing them some kind of video or chart? Or I mean, how does that work?
So it's a little bit different for everybody, and everybody has different needs. My way that I like to do things is, these guys are all professional baseball players. So I like to look at, okay, what do you do well? Like you do something well. So whether it's you swing the bat really fast, or you are really good at recognizing curveballs, whatever it is that you do well. And then it's like, okay, I don't want to take that away, right? I want to make sure that I can help you do that thing that you do well a lot. Like that's my primary goal. And I think, hitters appreciate that, because I think, I was always coached in like fix mode. It's like, oh, this is wrong with you, we need to fix it. We're not fixing, we're just saying like, hey, this is what you're good at. I want to help you do that more often. And this thing that you're doing over here is preventing you from doing that more often. And so how do we eliminate that thing? It's not fixing, because fixing it assumes that you're broken. And I don't think that professional ball players are broken. They're professional ball players. So, they're really, really good athletes, especially like these, kids out of like high school in the Dominican Republic. Like most of the stuff that they have issues with is just because they're 18 and we're putting them next to a 25-year-old that's fully mature, physical, has 7 years of weight room experience that these kids don't have. It's a completely different human. So I think, and that's what I appreciate about baseball is it's so patient. Baseball understands that like these guys aren't done growing. They give them time to develop. That's why it takes so long to get through the minor league system. And, we're very good about trying to make sure that we don't take away what those guys do well.
And so the technology is kind of helping you individualize the instruction or whatever tweaking or whatever each player needs then, right?
Yes. So we've always just kind of coaching is like throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and hoping some of it sticks, right? So what I think this is a good analogy. What the tech and the data allows us to do is throw stickier stuff against the wall, and now more of it sticks, right? So we don't have to guess as much. We don't have to get it wrong as much as we used to. We can get it right quicker. And when you're talking about millions of dollars on the line and you're talking about players' careers, and there is a finite timeline on these players' careers. And so when you're talking about that, it just helps us get it right a lot faster.
Yeah, so the picture that's up right now is you throwing BP behind a cage or a L frame. And I've read that there's been a couple of players that are, I don't know if intimidated is the word, but I guess your BP is a little bit more realistic than they sometimes maybe are used to.
I was going to joke with you earlier when you said, you're like, do you have these like advanced pitching machines? And I was like, well, the most advanced pitching machine at the Cubs is me. No, I'm kidding. It's not. It's just I throw hard because I can't throw strikes unless I do. And so I think the guys really like it because it's challenging. You watch BP and it seems so easy for the guys to hit before the game and everything. And it's like, I like physically can't throw a strike unless I throw hard. So, and now like we mix stuff in, we throw a lot of breaking balls and changeups and stuff. And I was a catcher, so I can repeat my arm all the time, so like catchers always throw the best BP. That's what everybody tells me here. So, I throw hard. So it's a little bit more challenging.
I think people say catchers make the best coaches too. I don't know if that's something
there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them on the coaching staff. I'll tell you that much.
You mentioned players coming from Dominican. I'm assuming a lot of the players you're working with are from Latin America, maybe don't necessarily speak English. You're able to communicate with them okay in Spanish or whatever their native language is?
Yeah, my mom is a Ecuadorian immigrant, so she spoke Spanish when I was a kid. Not a ton. I'm not fluent by any means, but I try really, really hard to. And I honestly do pretty well. Like I'm probably like 75% of the way there. So I can't, I'm not super fluent, but I can get my point across and have a full blown hitting conversation if I need to. I think what it does though, and this is like kind of cool to watch, is, these players are fumbling. Oh, they're in a new country. They're trying to learn baseball. They're trying to learn a new culture. They're trying to learn a new language. And we're asking a lot of these kids. And the least I can do is fall flat on my face speaking poor Spanish, or subpar Spanish, I guess, at least. And I think it kind of levels the playing field and it builds a relationship with them that's like, hey, I'm trying something that's really hard for me. So that just tells me that like I'm going out on a limb. So that the least I can do is to give that back to them, right? And just to go out on a limb, and I get it wrong all the time and they correct me and it's awesome. And so I've learned more Spanish coaching for the Cubs than I did growing up. So it's because it's out of necessity. You just have to do it.
So you're in Arizona now, minor league camp, right? What's the day-to-day like there?
So usually we start the day with like a meeting of some sort, where we all get on the same page and like, this is how the day is going to go. And then we go into it. We split it up in half right now. So like, cause there's 4 teams down here. So we have like a low A working group, a high A working group, double A and triple A. And so we'll do early work, like low A and high A will do their early cage routine, for example, like right after our meeting. So it'll be like 8:30 we'll start. It'll be about a half hour. Then that group will go outside for their defensive work. And then while the other group has already done their defensive work and now they're coming in to do their cage work. And then we meet for a team defensive drill of some sort of team fundamental. And then after that, we hit batting practice. And then if we have a game that day, we play our game. And so that's just kind of how our work day goes. If we don't have a game, they lift. If we do have a game, they don't. And that's pretty much it. So usually days start pretty early around here. I like to work out before work. So I usually get to the complex around like 6 o'clock. get a workout in. Meetings usually somewhere between 7 and 7:30, and then the day starts rolling.
So the Major League Baseball official top 100 prospects list, I think, was just published a week or two ago. And two Cubs, Brennan Davis and Christian Hernandez, are on there. Have you worked with either of them?
Yes. So Brennan, I get to work with in like spring training and stuff. And he's a great kid. Like, I mean, he's kind of like, when I came on, we worked a little bit together, and then it was COVID year, and then everything got wiped out. But like, I work with him in the lab a lot, you know, like when we have lab days, we'll test Brennan and I'm always in there. But not necessarily on a day-to-day basis. He's not someone who would be assigned to me. Christian Hernandez will probably open up the year with me here at the ACL. I doubt he's going to go anywhere else. I mean, anything could happen. So I've been working with him a lot this spring. So we did a mini camp leading into spring training. And so I got to work a lot with him, and like, we have a cool little relationship now built, which is awesome. He speaks Spanish really fast, and I always have to tell him to slow down. So yeah, it's fun. Like, he's getting better in a hurry. That kid's really, really good.
So the next slide, I couldn't find really any pictures of you in a lab.
Yeah, you're not highly doubtful.
Yeah. I expect that most of that's probably proprietary, and you're not letting people in taking pictures anyway. But I think you're kind of living the dream here that everybody on the call is jealous of. You know, you're on MLB Tonight, you're working at the facility. I see you've got Obvious Shirts there. Shout out to Joe from Obvious Shirts.
Right.
What's it like to be, I guess, I don't know if a celebrity is the right word, or I mean, I don't know if you consider yourself a celebrity, but how does it feel to be like at least a public figure in some regard?
Yeah, so the people that I live with in the off season, they always joke that they're like, "Oh my God, a celebrity lives at our house." Like, I literally live in their basement for free, and they're like, "Oh my God, a celebrity lives at our house." And it's an obvious joke. I think that where I take a lot of responsibility is that visibility is very, very important. So, you know, I'm not going to walk into a room and bang the door down and say, "I'm a woman and you need to treat me this way and this way." Like, that's just not my personality. And so I think my role, and there are women that need to do that, and that their role is very, very important. But I just want to normalize it. Like, I just want to make everybody see that it's just like a normal part of baseball. And I feel like if we can do that, then like, there'll be more women working in baseball. And I think if there'll be more qualified people working in baseball, and we're not just going to turn them away because they're women. I guess that's a better way to say it. And so when I see stuff like this, I do all the interviews. I come on with you guys. I will do anything that anybody wants me to do, because I think that the visibility is very important, because I think it should just be something that is just normalized. Like, I was hired because I was qualified for my position, but I wasn't turned away because I was a woman, because of women like the two women that are on that screen right there, right, that have also done it. And the one on the bottom did it before me, 5 years before me. So like, being a part of that crew is like just super important to me. So that's why I take these opportunities really seriously. I try really hard not to avoid them. But I'm also like, just, once you hang out with me, you're just like, oh yeah, that's just Rachel. Like, I just want to normalize it.
Right. So, I mean, there is a certain prestige, I think, that comes with being the first on-field coach in the Cubs system. But I would expect, just like there's not a story published every time a woman becomes a doctor or a judge or whatever, you're kind of just hoping, like you said, to normalize it, that
Yeah.
you're picking up the most qualified person for the job. Right.
That's it. That's all I want.
So in terms of the lab work, is it something that you studied in school? Is it just something that you picked up on? I mean, how do you actually get into that?
So I started off as a math major at Marshall. math got way over my head. When math became theoretical, I was like, I'm out. I can't understand this anymore because it wasn't finite anymore and it didn't make any sense. So I got out, and I graduated with a degree in history. So no, but I might as well have majored in softball. And I've always been like a statistics nerd and like I have a very analytical brain. So I've always been an analyst, and I was very, very good. And a lot of good hitters or people who've had success are very bad at explaining why they were good because it came very easily for them. And the game did come easily for me, easier than most. I shouldn't say it came easy because hitting is really, really hard, but it came easier for me than it did for most. But I think the reason why that is because I was obsessed with understanding why I was good. Like, I didn't just like rest and say, oh, okay, well, I'm really good, so like leave me alone. I don't want to know any of the information. And there are a lot of players that are like that. I was the exact opposite. I was like, I know that I'm good, but like I want more. Like, tell me why. Like, give me the information. I want to know everything about the opposing pitcher. I want to know what counts she throws this in. I want to know everything, because the more information I have at my disposal, I trust my ability to sift through it and take what I need from it. And so I think that journey for me as a player is kind of what is influencing me as a coach. Is I was just like obsessed with it. The only time I've ever gotten, I'm such a rule follower. Okay. So the only time I ever got in trouble in college was because I was in my computer class where we had to learn how to, like, it was like Excel spreadsheets and like it was like computers 101. And I was online and I was looking up statistics of myself and everybody else in Conference USA, or at this time, yeah, I think it was Conference USA. And I was like figuring out like exactly how many hits I needed to get or how many home runs I needed to hit to like lead this category. And like, and it's hilarious, but it's like my coach loves to tell that story because that's the only time I ever got in trouble, because I was just like obsessively looking at like statistics and stuff.
So at this point, in terms of owning a training facility and working for the Cubs in the minor league system, it's kind of like that whole obsession has just continued and you're not making a living at it.
Yeah,
that's like like the American dream, isn't it? Right?
Yes. The thing I like to do is also the thing that I'm good at, which is also the thing that somebody wants to pay me to do. So it's like very nicely lined up, and I'm very, very blessed for that. And I do not take that for granted at all.
So this next picture looks like the one on the left here, if I'm not mistaken, is you kind of in the stands at Sloan Park.
Yep.
Are you able to relax at a game?
Yeah,
are you able to just enjoy it? Yeah.
I love baseball. So like there is very much when I'm in uniform, I'm like in it. But when I'm watching at home, I'm very much a fan. I'm still a kid. Like I just takes me back to being a kid.
So if you're at the Cubs spring training game, a major league spring training game, are you truly able to relax at that point? Or are you still kind of thinking, oh, maybe if I do this with this guy, or what's going through your brain?
No, only if I know him. Only if I know him and I'm watching him. You know, like we have TVs at the complex all the time. So a lot of times I'll get my workout in, and the replay of the game will be playing in the morning, or sometimes I'll lift after our day. And, you know, if it's a busy morning, the game will be on currently. So if it's a player that like I worked with like that day or like 2 days prior, and I'm just kind of like seeing where they're at, yes, I'll do the analytical thing and just try to like, you know, see if they're actually being productive. But for the most part, like, honestly, I am very good at just like being a kid and like going to a ball game. Like, I love that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know you're hitting coach, but I see the picture on the right now. Looks like some kind of fielding drill. You've got a stopwatch in your hand. So your entire work isn't just hitting and hitting lab. You're doing other things too.
Oh yeah. If you're an on-field coach, you're part of a coaching staff, it's all hands on deck. So if we need you for an infield drill, you better bring your glove. If we need you for an outfield drill, there's always stuff to do. That's actually my favorite part, is being on the field. So yeah, you're basically like, yes, I'm a hitting coach, but I'm part of a coaching staff. It's just like a college coaching staff. You know, you have to like, okay, if we need, you know, someone to catch up at first base, because our first basemen are busy doing something else. It's like, okay, well, I put a glove on and I catch up at first base. Just kind of how, if you need me to hit fungos, I'll hit fungos, right? It's the same thing.
And no recruiting. So that's good, right?
Yeah, I hate recruiting. That's why I got out of college softball. Hate it. Can't stand it.
So
Could never be a scout. Could never be a scout.
No.
Nope.
I think this is probably the last question I have. I know you do a fair amount of interviews. Is there a question that you're never asked that you would love to be asked, or something you would love to talk about in an interview that nobody ever asks you about?
That's a really good question. Off the top of my head, no. I can tell you questions I hate being asked. That might be a quicker list to get through.
Sure, go ahead. I hope I haven't asked all of them.
No, you haven't. You haven't asked. There's one in particular, and I think like, especially with like the Balkovich hire, like with now that she's a manager, everyone has asked me, like I get two questions asked to me all the time. So when do you think you'll be a manager? And I'm like, to be honest, I don't want to manage. I don't. I want to be a hitting coach. So whatever that means, whether it's hitting, I want to be involved with hitters and I want to stay in uniform. Like, don't take me off the field. So those are two things. And the other question that I get asked is like, what's your ultimate goal in this business? And I got asked that like as soon as I got hired. And I'm like, dude, I just got here. Like, can I just enjoy myself? To be honest, like, I don't really have like these, like, you know, I want to be like major league hitting coach, or I want to be GM, or I want to be all this stuff. I have no problem with people that have those goals. I enjoy the hell out of what I do. And so like, if I could stay doing what I'm doing and you want to give me a raise, like, I'm cool with that. I'm not going to turn it down, but I don't need to like continue to move up, continue to move up, continue to move up. Like, my goal is just to like be really good at what I'm doing right now. And so I think those opportunities are starting to present themselves where I'm like, oh, I really like doing this. Oh, I really like doing this. Oh, I really don't like doing this. And so I'm kind of starting to put those pieces together for what I want to do, but I do know that I don't want to manage. So whenever anybody asks me that question, I'm like, I'm not going to be a manager. I have zero interest in managing a pitching staff. Zero.
Is a goal of yours being on your very own baseball card?
Sure. I'll take a baseball card.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a goal, but I think it's pretty cool. I think we should all kind of have a baseball card, but I don't know. I mean, like, hitting coach, like, how many male hitting coaches have their own baseball card? Only if they used to play. So
I don't know. I know that's not the best job.
I do think it's a part of history, though. So I think these things are important for sure.
Well, I'm happy to make these cards up and send them to you. I know it's not the best job, but with my dubious Photoshop skills. But I think that was all the questions I have. So I'm just going to go to the chat now.
Sure.
There's some kind of question about the Anaheim Ducks. I don't really know much about that. Tony just asked if you had any memories of your pro career.
I have like a million memories. What does Tony want to know? I could tell you. I don't know. I'll tell you a funny story. So we were hitting, I used to hit with like a wooden bat, like a wooden baseball bat before games, because it was heavy and I could like, the barrel felt really heavy and it would just kind of help me feel like whippy with my swing. And so I was hitting and I was like, it was hard for me to hit a softball out of the park with a wooden bat, right? So I'm hitting, and one of my best friends, her name is Samantha Finley, she played at University of Michigan, and she's like strong as hell, right? And I was like pretty strong. I was also like a lot bigger then, but she was super strong. And I was like hitting, and I kept hitting it like one hopping the fence. I'd hit it off the fence, and she's like, come on, Folden, like, you got to be able to hit this ball over the fence. And I was like, screw you, Sam, here you go. Here's the bat, you do it. And she goes, if I hit it out, you got to buy me dinner. And I was like, done. She took one swing, hit it, like cleared the bleachers, and she flipped the bat and she goes, I like steak. And so I had to buy her steak dinner. So that was kind of funny. I don't know why that came to mind, but that's one of my like favorite pro memories. Catching the perfect game was pretty cool too. Although in softball, it's not like as big of a deal. It should be, but it's not. Like, everyone's just kind of like, oh, like Jenny Finch is really good, or this pitcher's really good. She's not the only pitcher that's ever thrown a perfect game, but like, you don't like mob people like I wish we did. So I don't know.
Okay. Dr. Leslie Heafy, what's your most challenging experience in your career so far?
By far, it's to learn how to shut the hell up. So in the facility world, right, it's like everyone that walks into my cage, they're paying me for my opinion, right? They're paying me for my opinion. And when you're a professional coach, that is not what's happening. They're paying you to get these players where they need to go. And sometimes that means shutting the hell up and letting the players talk, because again, like we've talked about before, they're professional baseball players. So when I first got here, it was like, if I'm not saying something, I'm not coaching. And that's like not, so I had to learn how to like have this ebb and flow with the players and more of a conversational piece, because I mean, A, they're older, and B, it's just like, again, they're really good. And a lot of them, like they want to hold on to that. Like, don't mess with me. Like, I'm really good. I just got drafted. And it's like, yeah, rightfully so. You're right. So it's been a lot, I'm really good at building relationships, but I now had to learn how to build them in a different way. Whereas like in the facility world, it's like, hey, we're paying to be here. So like, what do you think? And if you don't say enough in the facility, they get kind of pissed and they think that you're not worth their time. So it's just a different atmosphere, but it's really helped me like learn how to be patient and learn how to like kind of let the athlete come to you. So that's by far been the most challenging experience. And I think second to that, and it's pretty close, second is learning how to work in a corporate environment. I've been my own boss since 2009. So learning to now, like, if I wanted to make swing changes at my own facility, I just make a swing change. Now it's like, I want to make a swing change with a guy, but I got to ask like 4 other people for their opinion first. And all 4 of them have to agree. And it's like, and 2 of those people are like directly above me. So it's like, it's, it just, you better be sure and you better know your information. And so learning that has been challenging for me too, but it's all part of my professional growth. So I'm happy for it.
So kind of a segue with regard to changing swings. Steve Dunn asks, what's the best swing that you've seen in the Cubs system? If you're able to say.
I can tell you who I think has the best swing. Owen Casey. How he's not on a top 100 list, I have no idea, but it's fine. We'll take him. We'll let everybody devalue him. I'm cool with that, but just, he had 2 hits in the big league game last night. So I don't know if anybody was watching.
He's a tall guy, right?
Tall ginger.
Tall ginger.
He's a redhead. Yeah, we call him Rothe. All the Latinos call him Rothe. Yeah.
Bill Perch wants to know whether a version of the lab will be coming to the different affiliates. Like in South Bend, there's the Performance Center. Just wondering if there's going to have something like that during the season at those levels.
I think our goal is to have some pieces of the lab available everywhere. I could tell you every stadium that we play in has the camera system that we use in the lab. So, all of our affiliates, even down here at the rookie level in Sloan Park, we've got, our markerless motion capture camera system. And we have that at all the affiliates as well. It's pretty easy to get like the different types of pitching machines that we use at each affiliate. The blast sensors, they go everywhere at each affiliate. Rapsodos go everywhere at each affiliate. So like we have pieces of the lab, but there are parts that we only have in Arizona as well that I can't tell you about.
Okay. So, I mean, I had a very brief conversation with John Baker at one point. I think he was the mental skills coordinator.
Yep,
and he
I know
said
Baker.
At least when he was involved, that after a game, there's going to be over 1 million different data points. Part of your job then is taking that, distilling it, and making it usable. That
Correct.
Seems intimidating to me, but what are you doing and what are you seeing in order to take that information and make it usable?
I mean, a lot of it's just telling us what we already know. And so when you look at it from that lens, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more manageable. Yeah, you can see 1 million different data points, but if I can put those into ranges and then just really only flag people when they're falling outside of those ranges, that makes it a lot easier. And so I do not know how to code. I do not know how to collate data as quickly as our R&D team does, and they do a fantastic job. But basically what they've done is make us understand like where the major league average is. Like this is where the average major leaguer is. This is what success looks like in terms of this metric or this metric. And then we kind of work backwards from there if a guy is not in those ranges. And sometimes you can be successful when you're not in those ranges, right? But we now can figure out like, 80% of the guys that have this problem also have this problem. So if they're showing this, we probably need to start attacking this. So we're getting better at that. But I think, I mean, yeah, you have to have like R&D and the hitting department and probably the pitching department for that matter have to all be on the same page and understand like what we're looking for.
Are you able to say how many people the Cubs kind of have in the hitting lab role, or at least analyzing data, R&D programmers? I mean, what's the size of the staff? If you can say.
I will tell you that every hitting coach we have on staff has at least some experience in, like, they could go into the hitting lab and do everything if they needed to. I just happen to be here all year. I can tell you every coach and coordinator understands like how to communicate the data that gets, spit out. As far as how many, I have no idea, to be honest. I would tell you, I have no idea.
Okay, Jason Schwartz asks, when do you think we'll see the first female major leaguer?
I have no idea. I could tell you that I don't know. I would guess that it's going to be a pitcher. That would be my first guess. Just because your impact ability at a high, I can hit the ball really hard as a softball player, but I'm nowhere near hitting the ball hard enough as a big leaguer. So I think the impact ability of hitting makes it very tough otherwise. Not that it can't be done. I'm not saying that. I'm not one to put limits on people. Look at me. I'm just over here chilling, being the only female working for the Cubs. But I do think that it is very, very possible. And I think probably if you take one female who's 6 foot tall and she doesn't play volleyball and she just falls in love with baseball and she's got long arms and all of a sudden she just trains to throw the hell out of the ball and she can throw 90, it might happen. So, that's the only problem right now. The biggest challenge is that our best female athletes don't play baseball. Our best female athletes really don't even play softball. Our best female athletes in this country usually play basketball, volleyball, and run track. So some of them play tennis. So I think that's our biggest challenge right now. I feel like that's our challenge in baseball too, because our best athletes here don't play baseball. They play football and basketball. So
if the Cubs were to give you 500 at bats, how many hits do you think you get then? That's a game I like to play with my friends. I say I'm good for 2.
I would say probably 1.
At least 4 times.
Are we in a big league game?
Yeah, just 500 big league at bats.
I don't know. Plus or minus 1. I'll give myself 1. I'll give myself a freaking lucky Punch and Judy. I mean, I don't know. I honestly have no freaking clue. If they're all lefties, 0. If I get a righty thrown in there, I got a chance. I got a chance. It's funny. Like if you'd have asked me this when I was 25 and I was still playing, I would have been like, ooh, I'd get a few. But I'm so far removed from that right now that I'm just like, no, I feel so old and removed from being a decent ball player.
Yeah, wait till you're 50. So Mary Shea asks, is there a general organizational Cubs way approach to hitting?
Ooh, good. I would say that defined on paper, no. But I will tell you that the feel that I get is very much like we are going to do everything we can to make sure that you are swinging the bat that the way that your body demands you to swing the bat. And we are going to do everything we can to make sure that you understand what types of pitches you need to swing at and where your hitting zone is. And basically we are going to give you all of the tools that we are capable of giving you to understand your identity as a hitter so that you can go in the box and compete as best as you can.
So Steve Dunn asks, why have the Cubs and other teams gone through so many hitting coaches at the major league level? Do you have any insight into that?
I mean, I don't. from a fan's perspective, and that's all I can answer this from. This is not from like an insider perspective. It's just like when managers get turned over, managers build their staff, and I think that's it's how it goes. Every time you get to that level, major league level, front office level, anytime you get to that level, you're, and I know this because I've talked to people in the industry, it's like you're taking a position that you're very aware that you're going to be fired from. And so you just understand it. It's just part of the business. That's as much insight as I can give you. Why it happens and why it's, a lot of hitting coaches for the Cubs. It's a lot for a lot of organizations. Hitting's really, really hard. And it's very much like a systematic thing that everybody has to be on the same page with. And I think it's one of those things that like when you get to be a big league hitting coach, it's like, I'm probably going to get fired from this position. Like, it's just something that you just understand.
Yeah, that's tough. I think this looks like it's the last question here.
Okay.
From Bill Perch. How was the communication between the different minor league hitting coaches with regard to the system going into the season, and then with regards to a hitter that might be struggling and trying to change things up mid-season?
We have like the best minor league hitting department of all time, and I have no experience with any of the organizations, so you can take that with as much salt as you'd like to. I love how easy it is to call our low A hitting coach and be like, hey, like, can you just take a look at this video for me? Like, I feel like I'm missing something. Just take a look and let me know what you think. And we all do that for each other. We're all rowing the boat in the same direction. We're all very, very much on the same page when it comes to how we're training hitters. And we all just have different styles and different methods of communication. And so sometimes you just need to hear that different perspective every once in a while. But what we do, and I think we do really well, is, so let's say I have a rookie ball kid that is going to go to Myrtle Beach. And my first order of business is to call the Myrtle Beach coach and say, the hitting coach, and say, hey, listen, he's coming up here. Here's what we've been working on. This is what I think he's going to do really well. This is just this, and this, and just give them kind of the bullet points of what we've been working on. So that way it's a seamless transition for the player. Because again, it's all about the players.
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm sorry you had to rush home and
No, don't worry about it.
Do it. But if there is somebody on the call or somebody that watches this at some point down the road that kind of lives in the area and would like to engage your services, how do they get in touch with you at Folden Fastpitch?
You can go to, all my info is on foldenfastpitch.com, or you can go to elitefastpitch.tv if you really want to dig into my brain as a hitting coach, because every drill I have that I've ever used is on that website. So if you want to become a member and support the cause, I will let you. I'll allow it.
Do you train old fat guys that just play wiffle ball every once in a while? Because that's where I'm at.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
and
thank you for having me.
Hopefully we'll run into each other at Wrigley Field or something.
Yeah. If we do, please say hi. And I appreciate everybody who took the time to listen to me. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take it easy and go Cubs.
All right. You too. Go Cubs.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.